Okay. That's the end of that part. That's it. That's the end of my presentation. I wanted to give you guys something. So in my contact event, so in my book, sorry, at the back of the book is a download that they gave me. It's called the Mystic Book. And it's a powerful spiritual, pamphlet, I guess you could say. And so I really, the whole thing starts with the whole memory came out with the Mystic Book. There it is. It's there, a Mystic Book. So it's about 14 pages long, and I'm just giving it out because the whole contact events started with this book. And this message seems very relevant and very purposeful for everybody. So please, that's yours to own and take for yourself. This is the rest of it right there. That's how you can reach out to me, jeffselver.com, jeffselver@gmail.com if you want to reach out to me and email. I'm always happy to talk with people. I really, we're all in this together, right? As experiencers or contactees or those with interest. So I really, you can always reach out to me. Great. So that's it.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Jeff. That was a lot, very good pace. And after hearing more details and more aspects of your story, I definitely see how at least the narrative and the energies of sort of, I haven't been given so much of a plan in so much detail, but the groups I've been involved with and what I've learned and the purpose lines up pretty much with what we're moving towards in this way. Still, I think that the Greys I've been in contact with and that I've had an evolving relationship with are a slightly different group, but also a group associated with the Galactic Federation, which is like a gigantic UN of planetary civilizations.
I actually once got I guess, however they tell me this stuff, but it's like tribes. Like there's definitely different tribes. That's how they think of it, kind of indigenous way. There's these tribes of gray aliens, and I'm certain that's exactly what's going on. There's different versions of them and different tribes of them. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to convey that kind of lines up with some of the things you're sharing and what you've been told is with the messages I was given throughout 2018 before the arrival of what I call the sphere ship. I was asking some of the beings when they'd contact me and telepathically things about the purpose or why they're coming. And one of the interesting details one of them told me is that what is going to happen, which was they arrived in August of 2018, but they said that there's going to be an event that they're connected to that is going to one day be regarded as basically the second coming of Christ on the planet. And at first I didn't understand that, but now it definitely makes more sense if all this is happening and things I've learned more recently through my experiences. I'm not a religious person myself, but in a way, with hybridization, that is, I think of it as an upgrade to human genetics, and that creates a major awakening, contributes to collective awakening of the second coming, what the Mayans would also call the awakening of the plumed serpent that has been talked about for so many years.
Cool. Yeah, agreed. That's I didn't put it in the presentation, but that contact event number 10, that's what they say. The human has this part of the brain that's the weakness, and to alter it is to create, which is what the genetics is. It's a part of the brain to create more leaning towards unity versus leaning towards individualization. So it does create, which would create a spiritual experience for people. Yeah. Pretty brilliant. Great. Is like, how do you want to manage the Q&A, or should I? What would you like to do?
Yeah, people can raise their hands and I'll do my best to answer, or Jeff, you can also answer people who raise them in order as best we can. And then,
sure.
Yeah, one at a time, we will go through questions. So anyone who has questions, you may, there's a reactions button at the bottom and you can raise a hand and just wait your turn, and we'll open up the floor to everyone.
Great. Hi, Carol. How you doing? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, now I should be okay.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for being on. I had kind of a few questions, but one, Troy brought up just the different, probably alien races of grays. And so how do you kind of figure out who's who? And then I know you said that the group that you are involved with, you find them to be very benevolent. And I know whenever I think about the grays, I don't really think about them as being a very kind, warm race. I don't know if any alien groups are, but so maybe just if you could explain how you feel that they are benevolent. And then do you feel like the clones are already here on Earth? Are they placing people here, or is it? I'll just be quiet.
No.
Go ahead.
It's good. No, I'll deal with one question at a time here. So how do I know that they're benevolent? Is that what you asked?
How do you feel that they? Yes.
Yeah. So when it came to me, the beings definitely display. They would display.
How do you think they replicate themselves?
Pardon?
How do you think they replicate themselves?
You mean
how do they make babies?
In my third contact event, I'm shown babies in tubes.
They make their own babies in tubes.
Yeah, and just genetic engineering. Yeah, genetic engineering. And I do see the elder in my 23rd contact event. I see her take off her suit, and she has no genitalia. Yeah, so they're just these Gumby dolls, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah. You had another question.
Just about clones on Earth,
clones,
whether they're putting clones on Earth.
I think so. My best understanding of all this is the beings are highly nature beings. Like, they use even the clones and all this genetics. They're using nature, right? It's this kind of natural method to kind of get them to put their presence here. So I think it's all of it. I think there's the humans with genes. I think you've got, I'm assuming, I've heard other contactees run into actual hybrids. Sounds like could be something. And then there's the other, where there seems to be a whole bunch of them stored in, I'm assuming, in phased or cloaked ships and bases, or in underground bases, that there's these, because what I see is bases that are phased, things that are kind of like they're here, but they're just invisible, and they're in some kind of dimension or something. I don't really understand it, but
where they're being held.
Yeah, that's where this kind of like civilization or something is being held, and where they're building everything. And for all we know, I think there was the Dr. David Jacobs book that I read, where maybe they're going through generations. They're trying to create kind of perfections or something. I don't really know that detail, but yeah.
Well, I'll just share one thing real quick, and that's that my mother at 82 saw her first craft and had never had a paranormal experience. And within a few months, she had an incident in the evening at home watching television, where the television went blank. And at 82 years old, she heard her grandmother's voice tell her not to worry, that they showed her the craft so that she will know that they will be there to pick her up when she passes away. And I have just
great.
recently been coming across a little bit more about the souls, or like what you said about the dead people. But it's like, how would an 82-year-old woman get that message that's really out there? And it was her grandfather had seen a craft on the farm. Her grandmother has past life experiences. And so it's like you just said, the generational thing too.
Yeah, that's great. My own, if I was to guess what's going on there is, that John Ramirez part about genetics are already in the population. I've done a presentation on this. I'm convinced that the beings know it. They know the frequencies. They know, the Celtic line is really popular. And I've known most experiencers to have some kind of Celtic connection. And could that be a gray alien genetic line put into the human population, 100,000 years ago? And so the beings can tune in.
Yes.
And they can tune into races, or not races, but genetic lines.
Yes.
And so you get this kind of thing where generations of people are connecting to aliens and they don't know why.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Yeah. That's great. Very good story. Very good story. Thank you.
I'd like to say one thing related to that subject of the beings being there, aliens being there when someone dies. And it was actually in a quantum healing hypnosis session I had with Mary Kennedy. I listened to that recording again recently. And one of the things that was shared that I remember was like from my oversoul consciousness that was channeling through and talking, but that the grays and alien beings have been in contact with and had dream experiences of throughout my life growing up, and also some other contact, I'm pretty sure, growing up as a child and young adult. They will always be there, and they're always aware of me, and that they will be there when this body ceases to function, to welcome me basically into the afterlife. That was pretty much the message that my oversoul shared on that. So that was interesting, and so that lines up.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's really awesome. So Kristen, I think you have a question over the chat. So I'm just going to read this question here. I bought your book a couple weeks ago. Thank you for buying my book. I appreciate that. That's great. I'm really excited to read it, especially after today. A lot to take in. I hope those of us here on Earth now do survive this. I was not totally sure on that point. They are waking up some of us humans. Are they taking over, starting fresh, or over with a new hybrid society? And we have been wiped out with this change to the Earth's surface. Hoping I missed something. If I think I understand your question. So yeah, I think the point being is in that 10th contact event, humans and hybrids working together, merging the species into one over time. So, right, I was terrified that that's what this meant, was this replacement of humans, and the grays, especially in that moment where I'm watching that, I'm in the God thing on the computer, the quantum AI, and it's giving me, when he's telling me about they're going to evolve and we are going to evolve, there's this kind of like excitement on their behalf to merge with us. For them, it's this kind of beautiful thing in nature that's happening. That's the impression I got, that there's this not a desire to wipe out and start something fresh, but a desire to, curb us. This, again, think nature, think two species coming together, as opposed to very mechanical, like killing and wiping things out. That's not the way I understand them to be operating, but the whole process of nature. So kind of two things coming together to influence each other and then to merge over time. So that's my best impression. Again, I can't prophesize the future, but that's my best impression from the things that they have provided for me. Yeah.
Okay. You had just said that they are on a different conscious level. And so the flesh and body doesn't, we react differently to death than they do of the body. Right. So it doesn't mean as much to them or something like that, that it's not consequential. So to me, I'm wondering if they think some of us, being killed or whatever with this all happening, that it doesn't really mean much because we're going to go on as energy and consciousness. So I wasn't clear on if we were going to survive this or if we were just going to go on to the
Right.
other
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty heavy. So the best thing I can answer to that is, so the experience with my beings that I have is that they by no means are think in kind of a malicious way. So there's no attempt on their behalf to wipe out or to kill, but the whole larger picture of the struggle that's going on is about us and the planet. So then they're kind of having to weigh up options. And so maybe that's where that kind of mentality comes from. But as far as like the beings that I interacted with respected life, and they kind of like value life, I guess is the best way to say it, which is actually the problem, is that we're kind of like reflecting that we aren't respecting life, right? We're allowing the ecosystems to die off. So there is their desire to save things is the value of life they have. So they actually do that. That's and in my 7th contact event, where she's basically giving me this. She basically goes into my mind and she's kind of saying, we need your biology. And when she does that, I can feel their love of life, that they have joy in the kind of the biology part. They love mixing and putting together. And so they actually do see the kind of creation of life as a sacred event. And that's how I understood that. So I think there's 2 parts to the question that you're having, which is, one is there are these kind of challenging times going on, and how are they thinking about it? I don't know, but I do know that they do value life. So that's the other side to this. I know that they value life, and they also recognize the kind of consciousness as a kind of, or the body is a tool, and then the consciousness kind of comes into the body. So they do have that kind of detachment. They can have that detachment, but by no means are they, that allows them to think maliciously, because the beings I experienced love life, or they love I see that process as being sacred. So does that best answer it that I can?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, great question. Ooh.
So Darius just asked a question in the chat.
Yeah.
About the telepathic communication and linguistic content. For example,
English word. Oh yeah.
There was a single non-English word for clone and new human, and they also knew your name. So
yeah, I do. It's a good question. I had to toss up in the book between putting a lot of that detail out. I wanted to, but it would kind of weigh down the book. So I do what I do where it really is emphasized. So often, when I'm dealing with telepathic signatures, I will mention in the paragraph that I'm translating something, this is the feeling I got, and then I translate it to this. And so I do that. I'm spoken so much, or there's so much telepathy that I often just leave it to the translation that is best made to the words or the feelings that I got. But I don't have a word for that. That's the problem with that. With the clone and new human, I didn't have a word for that. So, and I want to emphasize that I heard those 2 things. So then in this, I don't even mention it in the book. So yeah, it's something I wish there's too much of that. That's the problem, is that there's too much of this kind of telepathy going on that is complex telepathy. And I try to do my best at very specific points to demonstrate that I'm impressioning something and then I'm translating it, or I'm getting images and this is what I know it means. So, I do that. I do kind of tear apart the conversation. But I think more often than not, I really wish I could have just, give a whole bunch of detail about the micro stuff that I was experiencing. Because it's fascinating for me even too, just to have that experience with the telepathy. But I do mention in the book that I'm aware they know English, because they will, amongst the punches of energetic telepathy they're giving me, they're using English words in the process. So they're using soul, or they'll say destiny, and then it's coming to me in these ways, or my name. They'll even use my direct, Jeff. They call me Jeff, and they call me Jeff several times in the actual contact events, or in several times over 26 contact events. So they're using my word, my name, as an English language. And so it's all very fascinating. I did my best in the book to go into the individual parts. I do it where it's very significant, and unfortunately, I had to not bulk up the bulk up the book basically with talking about it. So yeah, I did my best there. Good question though.
Also, can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you think there's a connection between the hybrid children and the kind of disturbing sightings of black-eyed children that accost people in various settings, usually parking lots or their homes?
I don't know anything about that. I've never heard of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The black-eyed kids.
Black-eyed kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know about that.
They're scary.
Have you seen them yourself? Have you seen them yourself?
No.
Okay.
But they usually accost people in parking lots or in their homes, and they ask for help, and they scare the crap out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. Do we have any other evidence of this? Like, do we have how do we know this is going on?
They're kind of like the Men in Black, but of a children variety.
And
They kind of, it's like that myth of the Men in Black,
Right.
but it's the black-eyed children.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, if you're talking about aliens, this could be anything, right? You're talking about aliens. Is this consciousness? Are these entities? I mean, this world now, once you crack this door open and you realize all this stuff is real, you don't know what the hell you're looking at anymore, right? Is this a Bigfoot putting a projection into people's minds? Or there's all these versions of things now. It could be anything. It could be a werewolf person putting a projection into people's minds. There's twists to everything now. It's so wacky how nuts this stuff is.
The hybrid children you described, though, were they had black eyes, and it looked like they had blonde hair.
Yeah.
Or,
the hybrid children I interacted with were offshoots of a program of people whose genetics were all, we were all going through something spiritual. For me, I had this kind of, the wild, into the wild kind of like retreat. And one of the guys in the program was a Christian. And so he thought he discovered the kingdom of heaven, right? Another person was an artist. It was all these kind of like high, and one of them was highly emotional intelligence. So they all done these things to us that they kind of assisted, and then took the genetics to make these hybrids. So they contained this wisdom. They contained this kind of like higher something going on with them that was a little bit. So I can't speak to this other stuff, but the beings I was a part of were 100% were benevolent. Yes, we're benevolent.
Well, I mean, are they releasing these hybrids onto the earth, or are there hybrids roaming around the earth able to do these things, or are they still being? I couldn't tell from what you said if they were still if they had started releasing the hybrids.
I know nothing about that. It was never part of anything mentioned to me, or whether they're here now in the society. I just don't know those things.
Okay.
I don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah, there was. What she says is that when this change happens, that's when we are going to release the seeds. So she's implying that they're somewhere else. They're stored right now or something. And then there will be a moment of releasing them. So that's the only information I get like that. Otherwise, I don't have any clue if they're pre-releasing them into the society. I just don't know those things. Yeah. Good question though.
You did say that as a young man, you read Whitley Strieber's book, Communion.
Yeah.
And that's a trigger cover. It was for me as a young woman.
Yeah.
And do you know that Whitley Strieber is speaking next month at the McMinnville UFO Festival in Oregon?
I think I saw that. That's correct.
So he's pretty close. I know I want to take advantage of, he's on my to see list.
Right.
But yeah, he's just so known for that cover being a trigger. It's kind of amazing.
Well, the story, like I wonder how he feels about this kind of stuff, right? The story of my book starts with, as a 16-year-old, I picked up with his book.
Yes.
And then I was so excited. I don't even think about this stuff now until now as a grown up. I mention this to people, and they say, well, when I read Whitley Strieber's Communion, I was terrified, and I was excited. I read the book and I closed it out of excitement and prayed to be abducted. And it's like the beings responded to that. That's what triggers everything and makes it move forward. So, and it's his book that does that, right? It's such a strange, and you can see them telling him to write the book. And then they use these as tools, right, to humans, right? That's what's going on here, right? The beings are using these tools to further everything that's going on here, right? It's very, you can see that happening in this other way, right? It's very powerful. Yeah. Michael, you asked for a signed copy. I don't know how to do that. I apologize. I really wish I could do that. Everything is from Amazon, right? It's this pay per publish system now. So I have no way of actually assigning a copy and sending it to you. So I apologize, Michael. That would be really nice. Eh?
We also have visited Mount Baker, some of us as SUFON and as friends in the past, which is right near the Washington-Canadian border.
Yes.
So we may do that again, organize something around Mount Baker, and you could come visit us there a little closer.
Yeah, I would love that. That'd be great. Because every time I go out, I see my beings. So it's happened several times, and they're just these lights in the sky, but they're receptive to you, right? So it's totally magical. I love this stuff, and they love to do it. They love to be out there. So yeah, it's fun.
Well, people in our group will attract them too. So
yeah,
there you go.
It's really wild. Eh? This is a CE5. That's kid stuff to some of this, right? So when you're at these experiences, and you can, they're your beings almost to some degree, right? So, yeah, very cool. Great.
I had a quick question for you.
Sure.
I guess I want more of an opinion. One of the drawings that you did of the little fetuses in jars really triggered a memory for me. And this was years before I got involved in UFO research. So I didn't have any frame of reference, but I had a dream where a guide came and took me to a place underneath the ocean. And in this place under the ocean, I saw lines of jars lined up with babies inside. And I was told that I actually had a child as well, but he was already grown and living somewhere else in Northern California, I think. But what do you think of that?
So do you identify yourself as a contactee, or have you had any discernible contact events, or this is just an off dream and you don't know too much about it?
I've had an awful lot of dreams that seemed like maybe more than dreams.
Right.
So,
well, they can get into your dreams. So that's a fact. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, only in the end of the day, it becomes a private and personal discovery. And they almost seem in charge of it too, about how much you're going to know and when you're going to know. And only, whatever you're compelled to do, that's what I would recommend. If you're compelled to go down and discover. And I have had some people feel these ways, and then they go to a regressionist and they just use the dreams and they try to just discover, what does this really mean? What's the depth of this? And for all you know, it is them coming in your dream, describing this, or it can be the crazy part. It can be all of it, right? You go all the way down the tube. It can be they came in your dream. It can be you left your body and you're in an astral form, or it could have been a full-on legitimate alien contact. So it's this strange breadth, and only you are the one that can figure out what it really all is. Yeah.
Okay, so, thank you.
Yeah. Great.
that everyone?
It's great, Troy. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on with us, Jeff. This has been a pleasure, and I'm glad we can connect.
Yeah. Likewise. You're the neighbor UFO group. So
We are.
Yeah, we are.
That's great. Yeah, it's great. Thanks, guys.
And then, Troy, you are having Susie Hansen in a couple of weeks too.
Yes, that's correct. I think exactly 2 weeks from today, that'll be happening. I think it's on a Saturday too, the 30th. And she'll be the second gray contactee that I have lined up to talk about. She'll be talking about the intersections of consciousness and technology, especially, but I also want to work in elements of the alien plan for humanity that she's been told of, and what her perspective on that, and see if it also differs from yours, Jeff, at all, or your experience. After that, I think in the end of July or the end of June, we're going to schedule Sherry Wild, who's another gray contactee. I've read her book, The Forgotten Promise, and she has a very interesting story that also, she's one of the few people, I think even before she even knew of Dolores Cannon, and I think before Dolores Cannon got her 3 waves of volunteers word out, that Sherry was also told of the 3 waves, or I think it was 3 waves of volunteer souls that have been coming into this planet and will continue to do so for this evolving program. So, yeah, I want to get this these events done with the theme of the alien plan, because that seems to really be evolving and people are talking about it, and it's also personal to me with some of what I've been through. And I think it will be essential for people to understand some of this before more of it plays out.
Yeah, that's the good perspective to have. Yeah, something is going to happen here, and the disclosure is, disclosure is so weird. This whole thing is so strange, and yeah, so it's good. Those crafts that were hovering the warships. I don't know if anyone even saw that, right? It's so weird how it's being handled now. It's like it's the bottom of the news. And these ships they kind of admitted these ships are hovering these warcrafts, and they call them ominous. But the beings I know don't like any of this war stuff, so they are like almost purposely harassing them. But it's looking like they're evil and dark, and I really, people are going to need this information very soon in this process. So it's very good to do everything we can to get it out.